The following is a CNN special report.
Multiple capital injuries.
An assault on democracy.
Capitol's been breached.
An attack on the Capitol. Fueled by a president's lies.
This election was stolen.
Trump wanted the crowd to turn into a mob.
Inspired by a delusion, an enraged mob of true believers attempting insurrection.
You're a traitor.
We're in a medieval battle.
Trump's soldiers.
There is a sea of nothing but red, white, and blue, patriots and Trump.
Trump's true believers.
I feel like he was anointed by God.
Congratulations.
I don't think Joe Biden is the president.
All the marble.
New exclusive interviews.
The sound surrounded us, but then once they started banging on the door, that's all I heard.
New details.
Overran the Capitol.
I never dreamed that he would ever do anything like that.
New denials.
You called January 6th a peaceful protest?
I do.
And why it's not over.
In fact, it is just getting started.
Tonight, a CNN special report, Assault on Democracy, the roots of Trump's insurrection. The early morning of January 6, 2021 started for many as a day of anticipation. They had come from across the country, tens of thousands, Americans from all walks of life. Led by a lying president and egged on by propaganda, they would converge on the United States Capitol with a singular goal: do whatever it takes to prevent the peaceful transition of power in the greatest democracy on earth. President Donald J. Trump lost the election. They were deceived into believing the presidency had been stolen. Their country was threatened. They had come to Washington to fight for what they thought was right.
They feel they're the heroic, revolutionary, courageous warriors who are saving democracy.
But they were wrong. It was all a lie. January 6th was insurrection, disguised as patriotism, wrapped in a Trump flag. A lie fed to them from their president, their members of Congress, their TV and radio shows, their friends on social media.
It should have been predictable. You know, we saw people who'd been whipped up into believing an election was being stolen. And then they were being told it's going to happen straight away. So you've got both radicalization and mobilization. That's the perfect recipe for acts of violent extremism.
That threat continues to this day, driven by lies that endanger our democracy. How did it happen? How did millions of Americans come to believe a network of lies so deep, so vast, they would ignite an insurrection? To find the answers, we have to go into that sea of people, see through their eyes, their beliefs. This is that story, and it is not over.
I hate that I've lost so many friends, and I hate that my family thinks I'm crazy, and I hate that it's such a struggle, and I hate that people don't see the truth.
Welcome to communist America. Aren't you so fucking proud?
Yvonne St. Cyr, 54, from Idaho, facing 2 federal charges, filmed herself inside the Capitol. The former Marine and mom began her twisted path to this protest with weight loss surgery and a documentary about the food industry.
They lie to us about what they put in our food and what's acceptable and not acceptable.
That path to better nutrition would lead to QAnon.
I believe that this is truly the Great Awakening. This is bigger than Q. This is biblical. I believe that the corrupt systems are the Antichrist. They're all corrupt and they're all part of the same evil. I believe we're living out the book of Revelation.
She stormed the Capitol, live streamed her protest, and is now unrepentant.
I don't believe Joe Biden is the president. And I believe that he lost the election and that they tried to steal it, and that Trump did what he needed to do. He needed to step away to wake America up.
Josh Pruitt, a bodybuilder and bartender from the D.C. area, came to the Capitol because he too believed the election was stolen from Donald Trump.
If Biden had won, if at 10 o'clock at night they would have announced Biden won, nobody would care. We really don't care that much. We care that much because we thought we were cheated.
Your idea of this election has been batted down by courts, by Republican election officials, by secretaries of state from every single state, that this was a fair election.
All I can tell you is 85 million Americans feel differently than what you're saying right now. Guaranteed. The election was stolen. It just was.
There's untold reams of proof that it wasn't.
There's absolute proof that there was, but nobody wants to show it and everybody wants to hide it.
Where's the proof of that?
There just is.
His journey was more convoluted.
I voted for Obama. I liked Obama.
He is now a Proud Boy. A video of him being initiated into the far-right extremist group went viral.
I'm a Western chauvinist. Western chauvinist.
Got 30 million views, I think.
I'm a Proud Boy.
And gained thousands of followers on social media. On January 6th, video would capture him again in the first wave of rioters storming the Capitol.
We didn't storm any Capitol, okay? We did protest. We peacefully protested.
You called January 6th a peaceful protest?
I do.
You don't feel any responsibility?
I do not. Absolutely not. I don't feel like I did anything wrong.
So took over the Capitol, overran the Capitol.
We're in the fucking Capitol, bro.
Donovan Crowell, a member of the extremist group the Oath Keepers, was in a column of the right-wing militia marching into the Capitol. He refused to speak to CNN. His sister and mother describe him as an ex-Marine who went from being a Little League coach to becoming an alcoholic.
He was just a genuinely good person. He was always someone that I looked up to and that I was extremely proud of.
His son idolized him, and everybody idolized him because he had a great personality.
Crowell's life would spiral downward after his second marriage fell apart. His mom, battling leukemia, says he was a mean drunk.
He just is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde when he's drinking.
It's all been kind of snowballed. Then he started going on these websites that essentially were a vacuum.
He would move to rural Ohio and find companionship from a transgender bar owner and militia leader named Jessica Watkins, who would recruit Crowell into a militia, the Oath Keepers.
He found a purpose in his life because he was at rock bottom. And anybody that cared about him didn't want anything to do with him anymore because of his drinking.
You consider him a domestic terrorist?
I didn't, but I do now.
Crowell's family says Trump shares the blame.
Trump gave them a boogeyman. Trump gave them someone to fear or to blame things on. He gave them an excuse for their lot in life.
Man, are we live?
Coy Griffin was at the Capitol amid thousands on January 6th. He climbed a Capitol balcony, borrowed a bullhorn, and tried to preach.
We've been screaming, we've been fighting, but now I want you to pray with me.
The next day, he would post a much more menacing message about the building's future.
There's going to be blood running out of that building.
The conservative pastor, cowboy, and New Mexico County Commissioner began his career as a cowboy performer in a Wild West show for Disney Paris. Raised listening to Rush Limbaugh, he saw in President Trump someone who finally understood rural America. He feels the Democratic Party hurt his family business, pushed unfair regulations, and didn't take problems at the border seriously. He launched Cowboys for Trump, and later rode 170 miles from Western Maryland to Washington, D.C. Griffin appeared on Fox and got noticed by the president himself. It was life-changing.
I was nothing but a locally elected county commissioner with a mess of problems, and the president invited me to sit down at his desk with him and hear me out.
Griffin went to the border with Trump crony Steve Bannon, and when he posted this video about dead Democrats, President Trump retweeted him.
The only good Democrat is a dead Democrat. I don't say that in the physical sense, and I can already see the videos getting edited where it says I want to go murder Democrats. No. I say that in the political sense.
We're not going to get our election stolen from us from China.
He sees conspiracies in almost everything. January 6th, it may have been a setup by Democrats. He says he doesn't follow QAnon, but it sounds like he shares some of the same beliefs.
The deep state's just Satan because the devil wants to destroy things. There's those foot soldiers of the deep state, those like Hillary Clinton and George Soros, Dr. Fauci, Bill Gates. You know, they're the big wheels. You know, they're the controllers.
Griffin even doubts the undeniable that the riot led to deaths. Ashley Babbitt, an Air Force veteran from San Diego, shot and killed by Capitol Hill police.
He's got a gun! Oh, that sounds like a fucking gunshot!
U.S. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick died from a stroke one day after being attacked by rioters. Coy Griffin, like others, cannot accept their so-called peaceful protest led to death, so they deny it.
So let me just ask you, do you believe Officer Sicknick died because of the riot?
I'm not even so sure that Officer Sicknick's even dead.
Coy.
I'm serious. That's how, and I hate to be so crazy conspiracy minded. I'm not even so sure Ashley Babbitt is dead. Coy. I mean, who's to say that was? Have you seen anything of her family?
Up until the point where she passed, we lived 2 blocks apart.
The answer is yes.
I mean, I'd say through high school, me and my sister were best friends.
This is Ashley Babbitt's brother, Roger Whithoff. He says he and his 35-year-old sister were very close.
It was weird because we saw it on the news, and it was like, you know, that's my sister.
Whithoff says his sister was a tomboy who joined the military out of high school.
She could do anything. She was invincible. You know, that's the way I looked at her.
After the Air Force, Ashley Babbitt then bought a pool company in San Diego, which she ran with her husband and her brother.
She was happy. Talked about how she lives in a beautiful place, you know, does what she wants. It's the American dream.
And Whithoff says his sister had voted for Barack Obama.
I think that proves in itself she wasn't as crazy as a lot of the media is portraying her out to be.
Then she became a Trump fan.
We can make America great again.
Ashley's brother said they rarely discussed politics because he just wasn't interested. Her passion for Donald Trump would eventually lead her to QAnon, then the Capitol, where a single shot ended her life.
I don't think she deserved to be shot.
Ashley Babbitt died in defense of a lie, convinced by powerful forces that her beloved United States was in jeopardy. She and millions of others of Trump supporters were constantly barraged with false messages about election fraud on TV, the internet, social media, and for some, at their place of worship.
You know what? If I'm going to go down and the Antichrist is going to take over, I'm going to go down with a fight.
Pastor Ken Peters runs Patriot Church near Knoxville, Tennessee, and preaches Trump's Make America Great Again message.
We know something crooked went on. There's actual evidence.
Peters is a supporter of what's called the Black Robe Regiment, inspired by a group of pastors who fought in the American Revolutionary War.
Oftentimes, these preachers would have their military gear underneath their pastor's robes, and they'd get done with their sermon and they'd unzip their pastor's robe and say, now let's go out and fight for independence.
Would you call it a militaristic view towards religion?
When we talk about warfare, we're talking about spiritual warfare.
Are you ever concerned when you're preaching that there's somebody in the audience who actually takes your words literally?
Not a chance. We aren't attacking anything physically. We are attacking this onslaught of the enemy upon our nation. We believe that this country is being taken over by Satan. We're fighting against demonic forces not earthly forces.
Everything that was said tonight.
Peters called on his followers to protest the election results in person on January 6th.
President Trump has asked every patriot that can possibly be there on January 6th to go to D.C., all right? I'm going to be there, God willing.
And went there himself, preaching before a crowd near the White House the day before.
And it is important that in this moment, we stand up like never before. This is our time. And if we don't hold up the shield of faith, Satan will take over this land.
January 6, 2021 was a disastrous culmination of misinformation, lies, and manipulation, steeped in suspicion, racism, and fear. A movement that began more than a decade earlier, when America was ushering in another historic change.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear
To understand how America got to this, we have to go back to this. November 2008, the election of the first black president.
change has come to America.
Change is what the country had voted for, but to some, change brought fear.
Everything Obama. That's
and a right-wing media, then led by Rush Limbaugh, began to whip its audiences into a collective opposition.
I know what his politics are. I hope he fails.
That was a shocking moment when you have one of the biggest voices in American media, in global media, saying, I hope he fails. There were people who let themselves get spooked by the skin color. I think that his name, Barack Hussein Obama, I think there were people that couldn't get past that. He never had a chance.
It was the beginning of a path that led to Donald Trump's insurrection. New Mexico County Commissioner Coy Griffin listened to Rush Limbaugh every day.
Barack Obama was somebody that I don't feel like I could ever trust.
Preachers should be up in the grill of filthy politicians, immoral politicians.
Evangelical preacher Ken Peters looked at this Christian president and saw a threat to his own religion.
Seeing how pro-Muslim he was versus pro-Christian, I hated how he apologized for America to other nations.
Joanne Rowe's son Donovan Krall called Obama racist names.
He would call him a porch monkey, and it would always make me mad when he would say comments like that. I ended up hanging up on him because I'd get so upset with him.
He felt that he was going to take his guns. What started it was the Tea Party movement, and then it just grew from there.
The Tea Party, a political revolution launched in opposition to President Obama's plans to tackle the financial crisis.
USA! USA! USA!
There was a lot of white rage. Sure, some of the Tea Party activists were out there talking about government spending and so on, but I remember being at Tea Party rallies seeing T-shirts that said, put the white back in the White House.
We are going to fire President Barack Obama.
A former airline flight attendant named Amy Kramer would use a painted bus, the Tea Party Express, for protests across the country. A decade later, she would be a key organizer of President Trump's rally on January 6th. The Tea Party would capture a new kind of political activism and anger.
There's a direct link between the Tea Party rebellion and the Trump rebellion, and then ultimately the insurrection.
In 2011, Donald Trump would capture that same energy of the Tea Party and embrace a conspiracy theory that would launch his own political career, birtherism.
All I want to do is see this guy's birth certificate.
That lie, that Barack Obama was not born in the United States, is as real in the eyes of some of those who stormed the Capitol as it was a decade ago.
It was in the Obama era that something started to stir my soul into politics. I mean, the whole birth certificate thing, there's so much proof he's not a U.S. citizen.
I don't feel like Barack Obama is a believer in America or what America is and what America stands for.
Do you believe he's American?
Well, yeah, you know, I guess. I haven't seen his birth certificate, have you?
Barack Obama would make 2 versions of his birth certificate public. It didn't matter.
I think the lesson learned from Trump in that entire saga is that he could get away with a lie.
Lighting a fire that's going to burn all the way to Washington.
Trump's rise was happening at the same time. A former investment banker and movie producer named Steve Bannon was building a conservative news site so powerful it would turn the Republican Party upside down. Named after its founder, Andrew Breitbart, Breitbart News would launch the alt-right into the mainstream.
This Tea Party energy, there was this real populist power in this. This was something totally different. This was not standard Republican Party. And then Breitbart kind of became the blog site for that.
Kurt Bardella, former Breitbart spokesman, says the aim was to change America. And Bannon directed every story on Breitbart's homepage.
Truth and fact are not words that are used there. The goal isn't objectivity. It's more about what does the conservative side believe about this and how do they amplify that?
Breitbart's headlines were built on fear. Fear that the Second Amendment was being threatened. Fear of Obama. And most of all, fear of illegal immigrants.
This is why Bannon and Trump are so perfect together, because they both are ultimately perpetuating a massive con. These are people who could give 2 craps about their base.
Trump had emerged as the perfect candidate to drive Bannon's alt-right vision straight to the White House. And it would be perfectly timed with the rise of social media.
Donald Trump would not have become president were it not for Facebook and more broadly algorithms on social media.
Bannon worked with a company skilled in psychological warfare and created Cambridge Analytica to target Americans.
During my experience,
Cambridge Analytica whistleblower Chris Wiley says the delivery weapon used would be Facebook.
as soon as you start clicking on things, it starts to remove other kinds of content and shows you more and more of that thing that you're clicking on. You start to move further and further away from a common reality with others.
It was the beginning of a new era of disinformation that continues to tear Americans apart today. Anyone could create a so-called news story and have it spread like wildfire.
I think we have fundamentally misunderstood what happened with social media and the scale of change it has brought about.
Trump supporters like Coy Griffin increasingly tuned out regular news outlets and paid attention to Facebook.
Facebook is where I got a lot of my media from. Facebook or social media, I feel like you could glean more of the stuff that maybe interests you and isn't coming from a mainstream media outlet.
Social media launched a turning point. Deliberate disinformation competes equally with truth and facts. A perfect moment for Donald Trump to launch a presidential bid.
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall.
Trump's followers were led to believe American society was under attack, and only Trump could save them. Trump shared more stories from Breitbart than any other source, and he would make Steve Bannon the CEO of his campaign.
He had political advisors that recognized this grievance, figured they could tap into it, amplify it, and went off of it.
Completely scare the crap out of white people.
Yes.
Just to get elected.
Yes.
It was working. Donald Trump was racing through the Republican primaries, picking up wins and picking up believers.
I spent a lot of time screaming and yelling during 2016, saying Trump can win. People who were looking only at elite mainstream media didn't see it coming.
Here's for my Trump supporters out there.
Bartender Josh Pruitt, who says he voted for Obama, was now a Trumper.
I just like the straight to the pointness of him and, you know, his combativeness with people, him not being scared to say stuff.
I was so sick of politicians.
Yvonne St. Cyr says she went from supporting Ben Carson to Trump.
Our veterans.
I saw in his heart and in his soul how much he loves our country and how much he loved our military.
Absolutely.
Pastor Ken Peters would also eventually get on the Trump train.
I was much more for Ted Cruz than I was for Donald Trump. And I knew Hillary or Trump, there's only one choice. It's got to be Trump.
By 2016, Donovan Crowell is becoming more and more detached from reality.
He wanted me to start collecting water and cash. Don't keep my money in the bank.
His really main thing with President Obama was that he was going to declare martial law so he could stay president. He was Trump all the way, but he hasn't voted in his life.
Never voted.
Never voted.
By November, predictions favored Hillary Clinton by a wide margin. Her campaign had readied a fireworks display for election night. Then it happened.
Unlike anything we've seen in our lifetime, Donald Trump wins the presidency of the United States.
He won the presidency, but for Trump, it wasn't enough. Hillary Clinton had beat him in the popular vote. Trump would tweet she only beat him because of the millions of people who voted illegally. It was a complete lie, and it was only the beginning.
And we will make America great again. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
Donald Trump's presidency would begin with a lie.
I get up this morning, I turn on one of the networks, and they show an empty field. I said, wait a minute. I made a speech. I looked out. The field was, it looked like 1 million, 1.5 million people.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period.
I think he, in his own mind, couldn't tell the difference between what was true and what was false, and I don't think it particularly mattered to them.
John Bolton was Trump's national security advisor.
If he could convince people that what he wanted to be true was true, he would try to do it.
And the weeks before he took office, Donald Trump would launch the phrase he would use to get away with almost anything.
You are fake news.
With those 2 words, Donald Trump had told his supporters they no longer needed nor could trust the institutions, the official accounts, the news outlets that dedicated themselves to present actual facts. From now on, it was Trump who would tell them what to believe.
A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people.
He would lie about anything.
And just remember, what you're seeing and what you're reading is not what's happening. And I'll tell you,
he could have told folks that grass is actually blue and the sky is red, and he would have had some segment of his followers believe him. There is a cult-like phenomena as it pertains to Trump.
Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one.
This might sound extremely strange to a lot of your viewers, but I feel like he was anointed by God. I really do. I
Donald
feel
Trump.
Yeah, I feel like that
anointed by God.
Yeah, I do. I feel like he carried God's anointing in there because he won all the time.
He's an unbelievable leader, and when he speaks, he strikes a chord in us that grabs us, and we go, yes, that's the truth. That's right. Not everything, but most everything he says. It grabs us.
Others saw in Trump a rare opportunity to further push an alt-right agenda.
And yes, by the way, they are trying to take away our history and our heritage. You see them.
Steve Bannon, who had hand-delivered Trump's messaging, was now ensconced in the White House, turning his worldview into policy.
It's not time to bring the country together. It's time to take on the elites in this country, take the torch to them, hit them with a blowtorch.
Trump's blowtorch would be the executive order. With Bannon at his side, he would sign a series of orders, one nicknamed the Muslim travel ban, others restricting immigration, building the wall, and increasing border security, all based on the lie that a mass invasion of dangerous criminals was underway.
People hate the word invasion, but that's what it is. It's an invasion of drugs and criminals and people. We have no idea who they are.
Trump followers were being fed conspiracy theories by the president on TV, radio, and online.
The migrant caravans, yeah, I completely believe they're staged. With all my heart, I do. I mean, there's just too much evidence.
There is riots, there's a...
Ashley Babbitt would post video rants about problems on the southern border.
That I live about 15 minutes from the Tijuana border, and so this is something that I really take personally because I can see the effects. They are still trying to paint this migrant caravan as full of women and children because that's what the media is pushing, but let me tell you right now, the border is an absolute shit show.
I believe that Donald Trump is the only president that we've ever had in office that actually was speaking out to represent us, the forgotten Americans.
Coy Griffin, who would start Cowboys for Trump, would stake his future on the president.
Anybody that lives on the southern border knows that it's extremely dangerous.
Much like his claim of fake news, Trump would use the power of fear over and over again to motivate his base.
He never thought of himself as president of the United States. He thought of himself as the president of his political base. He accentuated their sense of resentment, bitterness, of loss.
This is our town now!
Part of his political base included white supremacists.
You will not replace us!
He saw those people as Trump supporters, and he just lacked the ability or the willingness to consider the broader implications.
Kurt Bardella, the former spokesperson for Steve Bannon's Breitbart News, could see the news site attracting more and more racists.
The overt racist comments from the Breitbart audience was littered across their pages. We can proudly proclaim our white pride, and it's okay because the most powerful person in the world is with us right here too.
Joanne Rowe could hear it all coming from her basement. Her son, an ex-Marine whom she and other family members call an unemployed drunk, was constantly listening to right-wing and conspiracy news, especially the internet show of conspiracy theorist profiteer Alex Jones.
He would listen to like Breitbart, Alex Jones. He would bring it upstairs, full blast.
I say it's treason, and Trump says it's treason, and we're reversing it, period.
For the last 4 years, Alex has been, bar none, the loudest and most outspoken Donald Trump supporter, and he will tell people what they want to hear when it comes to the conspiracy theory du jour.
Robert Jacobson worked for Alex Jones for more than a decade. He says the conspiracy theories Jones pushed on InfoWars, like mass shootings being fake, were all about making money, which he did by selling questionable health supplements on the InfoWars website. Big stories equaled big profits.
To Alex, that means that he is going to sell some product that day because of the spike in audience based on somebody else's tragedy.
Jacobson says he doesn't know if Alex Jones believes his own conspiracies. Donovan Crowell's mom and sister say Crowell believes them all.
He would constantly Facebook message me, sending me stuff about Hollywood pedophiles eating babies, and I'm like, I would just shame him. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. I would be like, you're a dumbass. This is not true.
He would tell us such crazy things. Hillary Clinton had a sex ring in the basement of a pizza parlor. Oh, Tom Hanks and his wife were the head of a pedophile ring.
Your son believed in QAnon, basically.
Yes, absolutely.
A new conspiracy was seeping its way into right-wing social media and news outlets. QAnon.
QAnon believed that basically all Democrats are evil, satanic, worshipping pedophiles, and the only person who can stop all this evil and save the world is Donald Trump.
QAnon believers would seek out encoded messages on the internet, parse out numbers and words of Trump's messages, all waiting for some big action from the president. At Trump campaign rallies, Q followers became a noticeable portion of the crowd.
Q is a real thing.
Corruption, child exploitation and sexual abuse, human trafficking.
Like he did with white supremacists, Trump would eventually speak to his Q supporters with a wink and a nod.
I've heard these are people that love our country. So I don't know really anything about it other than they do supposedly like me.
Ashley Babbitt had gone deep into the Q conspiracy, posting QAnon hashtags, including its slogan, "Where we go one, we go all."
She had a shirt with a giant "We Are Q" on it. I had no clue what it was, and she just said it was some political thing, and that's basically where the conversation ended.
For Yvonne St. Cyr, Q was much more than political.
I really feel like Q just catapulted me to truth, because that was my prayer all in the beginning was, God, show me the truth. I want the truth. Give me truth. I think Trump's a part of Q. He's Q++.
QAnon is very empowering. What QAnon allows a person who is engaging in conspiracies to do is feel like they're taking action. They're fighting back. Of course, it's all profoundly mistaken and none of it's real.
And as the calendar turned on 2020, a global pandemic would take conspiracy theorists down an even darker hole.
America at war with coronavirus. The infection is driving fears of a global recession.
75 million Americans have been told to stay home.
Josh Pruitt, a bartender and personal trainer, lost work. You don't believe in COVID?
Say I don't believe in it. I don't believe it's that big of a deal. It's pretty ironic that COVID's such a big deal and the flu went away. All of a sudden, there's no such thing as the flu anymore because everybody that had the flu has COVID.
I feel like the coronavirus played a lot into it, on everybody's mental health. You know, not just, I don't want to say my sister's because I don't want to say it made her crazy, but it put a lot of stress and strain on everything.
Protests against business shutdowns broke out at state capitals across the country.
So COVID happened and he started the mask mandate, and then things just started to feel wrong, and then they started to have protests. So I went to my very first protest ever, and it was very, very patriotic.
It was all coming to a head.
A lot of QAnon believers do sort of see this in biblical terms almost.
A cabal of blood-drinking pedophiles, COVID shutdowns trying to destroy the American economy, a conspiracy to replace white people. The election of 2020 would be a battle between good versus evil, and Donald Trump would be ready to tell the biggest lie of all.
Who's not going to at least listen? I mean, he's the president.
There is tremendous
They're
vulnerability.
gonna have a total internet kill switch goes in. Day of the
These
election.
guys have been cheating for years.
Years of lies, self-adulation, and the echo chamber of right-wing media.
Vote by mail is probably the worst way to hold elections.
Some completely deny that fraud even exists.
Would set the stage for many Trump supporters to believe what eventually would become the biggest lie of them all.
The only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that.
It's going to be fraud all over the place.
Again and again and again, he told people that the election was going to be stolen.
One of Trump's main complaints, the increased use of mail-in ballots overwhelmingly used in 2020 by Democrats, setting up a COVID year phenomenon called the Red Mirage. In key swing states, the absentee ballots favoring Joe Biden would be counted last.
You could see Trump go way up, and then you could see him plateau and go way down.
This is CNN's coverage of election night in America.
It is exactly what happened. On election night, early results seemed to favor President Trump, then turned.
It has flipped Wisconsin to Joe Biden with a lead right now.
He would try to stop it.
Trump has a press conference. It's in the middle of the night. He was trying to essentially declare victory before all the ballots had been counted.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We want all voting to stop.
That is not what democratically elected presidents or candidates for the presidency say. That's what authoritarians say.
He called it a fraud to count ballots in the United States of America.
Trump had primed the lie, spread the lie, and most of his supporters would only believe the lie.
I said, we're going to bed. And then I woke up and it was like, holy crap, what just happened?
How are certain states red and then at 4 o'clock in the morning all of a sudden become blue?
It's called counting the votes, though.
No, it's not. It's called cheating.
As the election hung in the balance for days, viral videos and fraudulent news stories painted pictures of widespread fraud. It was all a lie.
In Georgia, look at this new surveillance footage we'll be showing you. Mysterious suitcases, potentially filled, we believe, with ballots, well, rolled out from under a table.
I saw videos where there was suitcases of ballots that were being produced that were all for Joe Biden.
The mysterious Georgia suitcases that coy Griffin saw were actually bins of legitimate ballots, election workers doing their job. Like other viral videos, there was no fraud. It didn't matter.
Are you saying that you don't think that there was any fraud at all in this last election?
I'm saying that all 50 secretaries of state who are in charge of elections, Republicans and Democrats, found no widespread fraud that could have tilted this election in any way. So I'm just wondering, where is the fraud?
Whenever you have the President of the United States making those statements.
This was a massive fraud.
Senator Ted Cruz making those statements as well.
And we've seen in the last 2 months unprecedented allegations of voter fraud.
They hear a lot more. They're on upper-level intelligence briefings. Whenever you have those high up saying that, yes, there's cheating, what do, you know?
The ballot counting in key states continued, and on Saturday, November 7th,
CNN projects Joseph R. Biden Jr. is elected the 46th president of the United States.
Don't be ridiculous. Networks don't get to decide elections. Courts do.
actually voters decide elections. Trump and his allies would unsuccessfully take their stolen election case to court after court, nearly 60 times. But millions of Trump supporters, stuck in an echo chamber of right-wing propaganda, news, and social media, would hear only of more and more allegations of fraud.
They know they stole this, and they also know that we're going to show they stole it.
Will you accept Joe Biden as president?
No, he'll never be my president.
I mean, how could that change at this point?
Well, it could be a civil war. You never know.
America!
The news cycle, day after day, was hit with things that were designed to look as if something bad was happening. Claims of fraud, claims of stolen ballots, misleading video, and social media platforms played a huge role in rapidly expanding those claims.
We haven't looked at all the dead people that voted, people without actual residences.
Dead people voted. So explain that.
But where did you get that particular news that dead people were voting?
It's on multiple sources. I don't have my computer in front of me, so I can't really look it up. I can find it for you.
Just like the other made-up election tales you can find on the computer, the dead voting conspiracy isn't true.
I want to first welcome and thank the
Trump-appointed Republican election security officials would be called to testify before Congress only to declare Trump really did lose.
This was a secure election. Of that, I have no doubt.
In no way do I believe it wasn't stolen.
No way.
Period. No way.
Even though all those people who watch elections,
they're all bought.
All of them.
Yeah.
Trump's own Attorney General, Bill Barr, said this was a fair election.
Yeah, to save himself.
Trump would not accept defeat.
He couldn't take an election loss because Donald Trump wants his gravestone to read, "I won." He is preoccupied with this idea that he never loses.
For Trump's supporters, "Stop the Steal" would be their battle cry. And what began online would take to the streets.
We were on the Trump train early on.
Amy Kramer's group launched a Facebook page that quickly went viral. And recycling an old tactic from her Tea Party days, would paint a new bus and travel across the country in what she called the March for Trump.
This is like Tea Party on steroids, amplified 1,000 times. I've never seen anything like it.
Gonna be lit out here at the Stop the Steal, Stop the Coup rally.
And a right-wing activist named Ali Alexander would push his own Stop the Steal movement, staging protests and asking supporters to send him money to keep going.
How much money are you making on all this?
Zero. I'm dedicating my time and my company's team.
How do we know that with all the money that's going to your private
I don't answer to
account?
it. They're not donors.
1776!
1776!
The Stop the Steal movements would merge into one major day of protest December 12th in Washington, D.C. President Trump, buzzing the crowd in a helicopter, would energize his base for what was coming next. That same weekend, Donovan Crowell, the out-of-work alcoholic, attended a training camp in North Carolina, according to prosecutors, though Crowell's lawyer denies it. Crowell had been recruited into the Oath Keepers, a paramilitary group that opposes the federal government. Jessica Watkins, who owned this rural bar in Ohio, was the group's local leader. Bartender Julie Harvey says she saw the group meet every week.
They were going to D.C. for the original Million Maga March. I was working and I walked out on the patio and I saw them sawing the pool cues in half, putting on the zip straps. The way that Jessica explained it was just preparedness in case they were in harm's way.
Who are the Oath Keepers in your mind right now, based on what you know?
They're a terrorist organization. They're white supremacists.
You consider your son one?
Yes, I do. And I hate to say that, but yes. It makes me sad to say that, but yes, I do.
With no realistic prospects of overturning the election in court, Trump turned his supporters' attention to the day Congress would convene to confirm Biden's victory. January 6th, telling them, "Be there, we'll be wild."
President Trump said, "Come to D.C. It's going to be wild. I've asked you to do two things. I've asked you to vote and to go to D.C." And I knew it was going to be history.
Part of the reason January 6th happens is because Donald Trump picked the place, the time, the location, and then everybody could organize around that.
Ashley Babbitt, the Air Force veteran in San Diego, was making plans.
Trump 2020.
I think my sister truly believed that them going there, they were going to change America for the greater.
Both the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys would put out an all call for members to go to Washington, D.C. on January 6th. All across social media, the date loomed with ominous posts. Operation Occupy the Capitol. We will storm the government buildings, kill cops, kill security guards, kill federal employees and agents, and demand a recount. Capitol Hill police received numerous warnings of violence, but failed to properly prepare. Criminal complaints would describe trainings, planning, and preparations for an insurrection.
Rock Island.
Joanne Rowe says the real orders came from just one person, Donald Trump.
It's like they're a cult. He's got him brainwashed. Why, I don't know. I also think they believed so much in what Trump was saying that they truly were believing they were following his orders.
The lies, the anger, the escalation of violent rhetoric had been building for months.
Haven't I told y'all this fight would escalate?
The day before January 6th, crowds started pouring into Washington, D.C. At a rally there, Pastor Ken Peters would preach revolution.
We will rise up in this time and say, like Paul Revere, the leftists are coming. The leftists are coming. The leftists are coming.
Later that evening, Trump's political trickster, Roger Stone, would speak in biblical terms.
This is nothing less than an epic struggle for the future of this country between dark and light, between the godly and the godless, between good and evil.
Ashley Babbitt tweeted, "Nothing will stop us. In less than 24 hours, dark to light." To anyone paying attention, a powder keg of violence had been set and was waiting for a match.
It's not going to happen like you think it's going to happen, okay? It's going to be quite extraordinarily different. And all I can say is strap in. All hell is going to break loose tomorrow.
Early morning, January 6th, 2021.
They will have to make it through about 4 different areas and then go through security.
I think there was a heightened sense of the importance of that day and the pressure of that day. And there were
For aides to Nancy Pelosi, Elisa Law, and Kelsey Smith, it would be a big workday, the certification of the 2020 presidential election. In an exclusive interview, they admit the growing number of Trump supporters in the city were unsettling.
My parents were definitely a little concerned for my safety going into work. My husband was a little bit worried, but everybody said, once you're in the Capitol, you'll be totally fine.
All across Washington, Trump supporters have been turning out for hours.
By the time we got up, which we thought was early, the line was so big it was worthless to even get in line. So we just found a spot out there in the sea of people where we thought we could see a little bit and hear a little bit, but it was absolutely packed.
Pastor Ken Peters had spoken at the D.C. Stop the Steal rally the night before. Coy Griffin arrived early too, believing he would speak before Trump.
I went to the rally on the Mall. I thought I was going to be able to speak at it, which unfortunately I wasn't included in it.
Yvonne St. Cyr began the day posting her excitement.
Hello, good morning, we're here. We came off the metro and it was just eerie. It was like they had the roads blocked off and dump trucks.
It just got a different sense in the air that, all right, this is a little weird, but still nothing to raise the hairs on your neck.
U.S. Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn called into work for what he thought would be a routine day of protests, saw the early crowds, and took note.
These people are like wrapped themselves in their flags, and it was nothing like I've ever seen before. And it was like a cultist mentality.
There is an enormous crowd here. It's hard to really get a grasp of it.
I'm here because my president called me.
The crowds waited for hours, watching speech after speech.
Today is the day American patriots start taking down names and kicking ass.
This wasn't just a political show of support for the president. This was a historic day and a historic moment, and action might be required.
Let's have trial by combat.
Behind the scenes at the Rally to Save America, Donald Trump Jr. was all smiles.
Kimberly.
Yes, have the courage to do the right thing. Fight.
But President Trump, reportedly in a bad mood, was glued to the monitors showing the crowds.
We'll wait and see what he has to say at 11 o'clock when he's set to speak. After that, all these supporters are expected to march over to the U.S. Capitol.
Members of the extreme right-wing group, the Proud Boys, were already assembling at a pre-planned location at the Capitol's east side, flashing the OK sign that's associated with white power.
What's up, brother? As you want to see all the Proud Boys out here today?
They had not come to listen to any speeches.
Take the fucking Capitol!
Come on, tighten up! Tighten up, boy!
They had arrived in small groups, dressed without their usual Proud Boy attire to blend in, and equipped themselves with radios for communication. Their day would begin with a prayer.
Dear Lord, we come to you today.
And a march to the Capitol's west side.
2 men on a mission with about 500 behind them ready to kick some butt, standing for this country.
Josh Pruitt, who would be among the first wave of Proud Boys to breach the Capitol, claims he knew nothing of their plan.
I didn't hear anything about any plans of meeting by the Capitol at all. I was really just with the guys that were part of the Maryland chapter. So there was probably like 20 of us. We all hooked up around like 10 o'clock in the morning, and that was down where Trump was speaking.
At the rally, Trump was finally taking the stage and repeating his election loss lies.
We won it by a landslide. This was not a close election.
Members of the right-wing militia, the Oath Keepers, including Jessica Watkins, begin to leave the speech.
We want Trump!
Watkins and Donovan Crowell make their way towards the Capitol. She uses a walkie-talkie app to communicate to other Oath Keepers.
Everybody's marching on the Capitol, all 1 million of us. It's insane. We're about 2 blocks away from it now, and police are doing nothing. They're not even trying to stop us at this point.
Now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you.
People from the ellipse where the president has spoken are going to start making their way up here.
Back at the Capitol, a group led by Proud Boys are taunting police at a small barricade,
This is our Capitol!
blocking the entrance to the Capitol grounds northwest side. Then they make their move, overwhelming officers. Police continue to fall back.
Do you want your house back? Take it!
As the House comes to order for this important historic meeting.
I started looking out and I saw a lot of commotion. This is not right.
Are there any objections?
On the floor of the House, Paul Gosar, the Republican from Arizona, who'd previously been in communication with Stop the Steal organizer Ali Alexander, is launching his own protest.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona rise?
I rise up for myself and 60 of my colleagues to object to the counting of the electoral ballots from Arizona.
All right, so there you have it. The first objection, they're going to be separated now.
I didn't have a view into the outside, but somebody texted me a photo of people on the inaugural platform, and that was the first time I thought, wow, I can't believe we're at this point.
It was almost the same moment Donald Trump was delivering this prophetic line.
And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Be advised, the speed ended.
Outside the walls of the Capitol, mayhem. A member of the Proud Boys named Dominic Pizzola got his hands on a Capitol Police riot shield.
They're throwing bottles, sprinkler, and bricks at the Capitol.
You hear officers on the radio screaming for help.
Harry Dunn, stationed on the Capitol's east side, races to help his comrades on the west and is stunned at what he sees.
Full Capitol entries! Multiple Capitol entries!
And you're seeing these officers come up the steps, being dragged up the steps. I can't see, almost in tears, help me, help me. and they're walking out with just their arms forward because you can't see. We had supervisors there in white shirts, and they're orange stained, because the orange is the pepper spray, and they're just soaked in just orange spray, and they're just like, help, help. You got officers coming up the steps, bloodied, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, what is happening? And just seeing the fear in some of these officers' faces. And I'm sure it was present on mine because I was scared. I was absolutely scared. Just seeing that fear is something I don't think I'll ever forget.
A full-scale riot is underway outside the Capitol. Leaving the rally down Pennsylvania Avenue, Yvonne St. Cyr has no idea what awaits her.
And I was so excited to get to the Capitol. I just wanted to see what was going to happen. So 1:11, we started marching.
1776!
Alex Jones, the conspiracy theory profiteer, with the organizer of Stop the Steal, Ali Alexander, in tow, begins his own march to the Capitol grounds.
This is history happening!
I skipped, literally skipped with my flag all the way to the Capitol.
In the crowd, Ashley Babbitt.
We are walking to the Capitol in a mob. There's an estimated over 3 million people here today. So despite what the media tells you, boots on ground definitely say something different. There is a sea of nothing but red, white, and blue, patriots and Trump.
This is what you get with rule of the
At 1:26 p.m., U.S. Capitol Police order the Capitol complex to begin evacuations. 2 minutes later, a call is made requesting the National Guard. Pipe bombs are being investigated nearby at the headquarters of the DNC and RNC.
Hold the line!
Whoa, this is bad. This is bad.
By 2 p.m., both sides of the Capitol are surrounded with mobs fighting police.
We're still taking metal, sharpened objects, missiles, to include bottles and rocks, and hand-thrown chemical-grade fireworks. This is now effectively a riot.
Capitol Police are fighting a two-front war.
Hold them this way!
Total chaos. It's total chaos. Just screaming, yelling. Bullhorns being blown. Cheers of America.
This is our capital!
And traitor, and we want Trump, and just absolute pandemonium. It's so loud you can't even hear your radio that's right here in your ear. They were prepared for war.
Then the moment happens.
They breached the scaffold! Like Capitol know, they have breached the scaffold! USA! USA! USA!
At 2:12 p.m., using a stolen police shield, Proud Boy Dominic Pezzola breaks a window. The Capitol has been breached. The danger has only begun. At 2:12 p.m., using a police shield, Proud Boy Dominic Pezzola breaks a window on the Capitol's west side, and the mob starts pouring in. Josh Pruitt jumps a railing and follows other Proud Boys through a now open door.
So what did you do?
Walking through a front door being held open by cops that waved me in.
Now, you know that's not true.
No, I know that is true. There's proof of it. There's video of it. And when I walked in through the front door, the cops were at the door, and they were standing to the sides of the door, and they were waving people in.
Yeah. The video I saw of that moment was a couple of cops overwhelmed by a mob.
Well, you didn't watch all the videos then.
I didn't. I think I did.
It was all caught on video. Here is Josh Pruitt walking through the door 70 seconds after the window breaks. It is almost the same moment rioters smash windows on the east side.
And be advised, they're attempting to break a window on the east front. 13 hours, Capitol has been breached on the east side.
Armed with sticks, flagpoles, riot shields, they had stormed past and overpowered police who could do little but coax and steer them away from lawmakers.
My challenge today is not about the good people of Arizona.
And it will stand in recess until the call of the chair.
We'll pause.
Protesters are in the building.
Thank you.
The rioters weren't just in the building. At the moment the Senate adjourned, they were streaming straight toward the Senate chambers and Vice President Mike Pence. Senator Mitt Romney is about to head straight into a mob, but is intercepted by a single Capitol Hill police officer. A moment later, that same officer, Eugene Goodman, somehow coaxes the mob away from the Senate and straight into a waiting row of Capitol Police.
My hero, Eugene's great. He is great. He did a great job. There were a lot of Eugene Goodmans that day that did a lot of great, heroic things, and people will never know their name.
There are now hundreds in the mob, roaming halls, banging on doors, taking photos and video.
Defend your Constitution! Defend your liberty!
Some members of Congress are being escorted to safety, but scattered behind doors, staffers, news media are in hiding.
Then I remember telling my colleagues, I think we need to go into lockdown.
Inside House Speaker Pelosi's office, her staffers rush to a conference room, lock the door. Among them, Elisa La and Kelsey Smith speaking exclusively to CNN.
Then we started hearing the banging and like the hooting and the hollering.
Nancy! Nancy!
Very close to us.
Here you go, brother!
And then I realized, okay, music off, everybody silence your cell phones, turn the lights off. Do not say anything.
We're coming for you, Nancy!
It was menacing.
Can I speak to Pelosi?
I mean, they were like, where's Nancy? Where's Nancy? Where are the people that work for her?
We're gonna find you.
Yeah.
They had barricaded themselves in, hoping the door would hold.
The din was coming from all directions. And we heard somebody yell, I found Nancy Pelosi's office. Like, Nancy, the people are chanting, Nancy, Nancy. They come through this way. So we're hearing it from behind us and in front of our door. So it was completely, the sound surrounded us to the point we're just hearing the shouting and the yelling and the banging and the crashing and shattering of glass. But then once they started banging on the door, that's all I heard. That's what I still think about, the door sound. One of us said to the other, they take us hostage, right? And I said, yeah. I think. That was one of the few words I said out loud in the room.
You want to fight? You better bleed! You devil!
One of the trapped staffers whispers a phone call plea for help.
We need Capitol Police, I think, coming to the hallway. They're behind the doors trying to find her.
It was pure terror.
Where are you, Nancy? We're looking for you!
Just the way he was chanting her name.
Nancy!
It haunts me.
Oh, Nancy!
He was not going to be nice if he found her or someone associated with her.
It could have been multiple men that were doing that too. I mean, we don't know.
Nancy! Where are you, Nancy?
We didn't know what was actually happening because it was just the 8 of us in a completely dark room and all we could hear was what was outside.
Inside the halls of Congress, the mob refuses to stop. Outside, more and more are trying to get in. In the midst of the massive protest, what appears to be a single-file military column climbs the eastern staircase as the crowd sings. These are the Oath Keepers, and in the column is Joanne Rowe's son, Donovan Krall.
But I never dreamed that he would ever do anything like that. Never. It's just heartbreaking to me.
It's alleged the Oath Keepers had stashed weapons in a nearby hotel, had been planning, practicing military tactics since the election. Now, over radio communications, they were broadcasting their triumph.
We are in the mezzanine. We are in the main dome right now. We are rocking it. They're throwing grenades. They're freaking shooting people with paintballs, but we're in here.
Get it, Jess. Do your. This is what we lived up for. Everything we trained for.
Took over the Capitol, overran the Capitol.
We're in the fucking Capitol, bro.
In almost every corner, inside and out, mini battles are raging.
Take your shit off! You communist!
It's over! You better run, cops!
Police officers are being crushed, trying to keep the surging mob from gaining entry to the Lower West Tunnel. One officer, Daniel Hodges, screaming as his body is pressed into the door. Officer Michael Fanone had heard the radio calls and rushed to help.
This was not a law enforcement operation.
His body camera captures the moment he faced the mob of thousands.
We were in a medieval battle. This was hand-to-hand combat in its most brutal form.
The rioters had come armed and were fighting to get inside. They hit police with bats, sticks, batons, tasers.
Guys were bleeding. You know, these are officers that I think under normal circumstances, they would be in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. But they weren't because there was nowhere to go. If you left that line, we were going to lose that door, and that just wasn't an option.
Fanone, trying to defend the line, was yanked across it.
I was pulled away from the other officers out into the crowd.
I got one!
Video would capture Fanone being tossed, pulled, beaten. His own body camera, a jumble of confusion and violence.
I was getting the shit kicked out of me. Yeah, that was like the ass beating of a lifetime.
You're in a police uniform.
Yes.
The mob grabbed for his gun. Someone repeatedly tased him in the neck.
They were trying to kill me.
Fanone, struggling to survive outside the Capitol, was trying to defend lawmakers still trapped inside.
We were just told that there has been tear gas in the rotunda, and we're being instructed to each of us get gas masks that are under our seats.
Armed Capitol Police are now blocking the doors of the United States House of Representatives.
You're a traitor if you go against the Yes.
Up in the gallery, Colorado Congressman Jason Crow was in a group of members trapped.
Everybody stay down!
We were the targets. We were the ones, the members, that they were going to try to kill or capture.
Crow called his wife, told her, "I love you." Then the former Army Ranger with more than 100 combat missions in Iraq and Afghanistan plotted to escape.
There was a part of me that was thinking, if this mob breaks through those doors, they're going to try to kill us all. And I need to do what I need to do to protect myself, protect my colleagues, protect others.
On the Capitol's front lawn, the mob was becoming incensed. Donald Trump had just tweeted,
Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution.
There is a scaffold and a noose, and chants of, "Hang Mike Pence." Security is now whisking Pence and his family down a back stairway.
I think Trump wanted the crowd to turn into a mob. I think he wanted them to disrupt the certification of the Electoral College votes, to give him more time to play out some other scenario that might yet end up with him being president. And that's the most dangerous part, not the crowd in the Capitol, although that was sad and tragic. The worst part was Donald Trump himself.
Well, we came this far. What do you say? Drag him out! Drag him out!
Back inside, Ashley Babbitt is approaching a mob that has reached the doors of the House Speaker's lobby. It's a hallway that leads directly to the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives. Members and their staff just steps away. Reinforcements arrive. 3 uniformed officers holding the door step aside.
Let's fucking go!
All that separates members of Congress from the mob is a wood and glass door barricaded with furniture.
Hey, he's got a gun! He's got a gun!
In that split second, Ashley Babbitt tries to climb through a broken window.
That's one of the hardest parts about seeing the video is you just want to grab her and shake her and be like, damn it, Ashley, why'd you have to do that, you know?
That sounds like a fucking gunshot.
Ashley Babbitt is shot.
You know, I know gunshots pretty well. I knew that this was real and people were being killed.
Ashley Babbitt would die because of Trump's big lie. She would not be the last. The battle, raging for nearly 2 hours, is showing no signs of stopping. Rioters are on the Senate floor.
Hey, whose office is this?
And rummaging through offices.
Oh, wow.
Outside, more and more are trying to fight their way in. D.C. police officer Michael Fanone, dragged into a mob, being beaten, is heard on his body camera, pleading for mercy.
I think it saved my life.
Officer Fanone suffered a mild heart attack after being repeatedly tased and beaten. One of nearly 140 police officers wounded in the protest. Another, Officer Brian Sicknick, sprayed with a chemical, would die the next day, officially of a stroke, though the riot played a role according to the medical examiner. Proud Boy Josh Pruitt, walking around the Capitol, is spotted at the front lines and smashing a wooden sign. He calls it all a peaceful protest.
There's a picture of me picking up a sign. Okay, cool.
And holding it over your head and throwing it.
I'm sure that trust me, I've seen all the pictures because that's their narrative.
I think we got so lucky that this didn't become worse. And what was remarkable is the hours that went by without a word from Trump.
You're gonna kill me, man. Hey, you're gonna kill me.
It's been an hour since the Capitol was breached. At 3:13, Donald Trump would make his first response to the violence, tweeting, "I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order."
I don't think the people that came to the Capitol that day had a lot of respect for my coworkers and I.
I mean, this is insane.
Lawmakers, including Republicans, calling into CNN, were astounded at the president's detachment.
The election's over, and the objectors need to stop meddling with the primal forces of our democracy here. So call it off, Mr. President. We need you to call this off.
Fight for Trump!
President Trump did not call it off. On a perch overlooking the crowd, Alex Jones begins to spin the lie. Antifa was causing the violence.
95% is provocatory. We have the witnesses, we have the footage.
Are we live?
Coy Griffin, who claims he didn't see any fighting, makes his way to the inauguration stage.
But it wasn't part of the Capitol building. It was an exterior staircase. I never went inside.
And tries to get a mob shouting, "Fight for Trump," to pray for Trump.
Take a knee! If you want to take a knee! Take a knee! Take a knee!
Wonderful opportunity to pray with people. After that, we left. We walked down the staircase. We walked away from the Capitol.
The aftermath of Ashley Babbitt's fatal shooting is playing out on live TV.
By the time I had made it to my parents' house, my other younger brother had met me out in the parking lot and told me she had passed. One of only 2 times I've ever seen my father cry. I mean, go down to your knees sobbing like a kid, cry. My mom was tore up about it, but I mean, which mother wouldn't be, you know?
Yet the president had still not told his followers to stop. Republican House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy urges Trump, call it off.
I begged him to go talk to the nation. Don't do it by Twitter.
He was resisting phone calls from people. He did talk to Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy told him what was happening, that people were breaking into McCarthy's office, and Trump's reaction was, they must be more upset than you are about the election results.
Donald Trump is watching this on television, and I wondered, what is he doing to stop this? I think we know now he didn't do anything. Not doing anything while the Capitol was being desecrated, I thought was unforgivable.
Pastor Ken Peters says he didn't make it to the Capitol till
Elections are never to be destructive.
Capitol Hill police, now formed in tactical units, were performing rescue missions. Congressman Jason Crow, among those trapped in the House gallery, was being escorted past rioters spread eagle on the ground.
They were holding rioters at bay at gunpoint on the other side.
Nancy Pelosi's staff waited 2 hours, barricaded and terrified, before they too were escorted to safety.
That was easily the worst day of my life. The worst 2 hours of my life, easily.
Amidst the chaos, QAnon believer Yvonne St. Cyr climbed through a window to get inside.
I was caught up in the moment. Oh my gosh, we were storming the Capitol. I was inside the Capitol, so I went live in the moment, and I stuck my head out the window and said, "This is our house," in all the energy and emotion of what I was feeling. Super sad that this is America, and Americans are being beaten for wanting to save their country. So welcome to communist America. Aren't you so fucking proud?
By 4 o'clock, Vice President Pence was calling the acting Secretary of Defense, demanding he clear the Capitol. A moment later, battle raging. Trump finally tweets a pre-taped statement.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us, but you have to go home now.
Then, inexplicably, tells the mob,
"You're very special."
Donald Trump asked everybody to go home. He just put out a tweet. It's a minute long. He asked everybody to go home.
Josh Pruitt, who claims he was only in the Capitol for a half hour,
It got a little too rowdy for me in there personally, so I decided to leave.
says he believes it was all a setup.
I think that they let a bunch of people in so they could use their facial recognition and get every Trump supporter with charges that they could. That's what I think happened.
And now you see in these pictures, you know, the cavalry, if you will, has arrived.
We gotta go. Time to get out of here, guys.
By 6 p.m. January 6th, the riot was largely under control. At 6:01, Donald Trump would signal to his supporters they had done the right thing, and he shot a warning to the rest of the country that the insurrection he launched was not over. These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. He finishes, "Remember this day forever."
Congress has returned to the Capitol.
But the day was not over.
We went back and did our job. We fulfilled our constitutional duty, and they will never break us.
To those who wreaked havoc in our Capitol today, you did not win.
Trump lost. The insurrection failed. Congress certified Joe Biden as the 46th President of the United States. But the big lie has not gone away. The assault on democracy is escalating.
Our movement is far from over. In fact, it is just getting started.
On the morning of January 7th, like the country itself, the United States Capitol appeared in shock. Broken glass, smashed doors. Damaged but not broken democracy had survived Trump's mob. Joe Biden's election had been certified, but at tremendous cost. 5 people died, nearly 140 police officers injured. In the immediate aftermath, there was no doubt who had caused it.
President Trump is practically and morally responsible.
Republicans briefly united with Democrats in disgust.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters.
Republican House Leader Kevin McCarthy, who begged Donald Trump to stop the riot while it was happening.
I called the president. I begged him to go talk to the nation.
Within weeks, would do an about-face.
I don't believe he provoked if you listen to what he said at the rally.
If you don't believe that Trump had anything to do with this insurrection, why were you calling him to have it called off? In the heat of the moment, everybody knew what the deal was.
Kevin McCarthy would fly to Mar-a-Lago. Mitch McConnell would signal to the nation Trump was still in charge.
If the president was the party's nominee, would you support him?
The nominee of the party? Absolutely.
In that hypocrisy, lower-level Republicans, many conspiracy believers themselves, found their opening to rewrite the history of January 6th. Congressman Andrew Clyde from Georgia, who actually helped Capitol Police barricade the door that day, later said this.
You know, if you didn't know the TV footage was a video from January the 6th, you would actually think it was a normal tourist visit.
No one could look at this video, this video, or this video,
That sounds like a fucking gunshot!
and call January 6th a normal tourist visit.
It's kind of eerie and haunting to me that for the rest of my life, I can go watch my sister die on camera. A horrible, horrible video. But it'll always be there.
The scars of the siege on the Capitol are permanent. The lives of those who took part have been upended. Many face prison time, lost jobs.
It's cost me a lot. It's cost me a lot.
Coy Griffin faces federal charges, and his county commission seat is being threatened.
Sorry, I'm not quitting. I'm not resigning.
And still, he is a believer.
I personally will never recognize Joe Biden as a president of the United States as long as I have the type of questions that I have regarding the elections.
Yvonne St. Cyr, also charged for storming the Capitol, thinks it's all part of a grand plan.
I don't regret going on January 6th at all, and I don't even regret going through the window.
Bartender Josh Pruitt says he can't find a job because of his role in the riot. And as for the charges against him,
you're in serious trouble.
I'll be just fine. Because I didn't do anything.
Oathkeeper Donovan Kroll is facing some of the most serious criminal charges in the Capitol breach.
Took over the Capitol, overran the Capitol.
We found him in Ohio, where he's awaiting trial.
I'm with CNN.
Excuse me?
I'm with CNN, Mr. Kroll, Drew Griffin.
Thanks, man. I'm good. Have a good day.
I've been talking to your mom and your sister. They mentioned that you might want to say something to us about
what?
About your case and whether or not you feel bad about it.
I feel bad about my case.
Feel bad about what you did?
Well, actually, the things I did, I was hanging out with some of the wrong people, it seems like, but I didn't really do anything. So I feel pretty good that my case is going to come out and show that. So.
Do you feel like you were manipulated into going to the Capitol?
No, I really got nothing to say to you. I don't watch your garbage anyway.
I love the person that he used to be, but I despise the person that he is now. He's not my son, and I still have a hard time believing that he did what he did. If he gets 20 years in prison, he'll be 70 years old before he gets out of there. Trump doesn't care about any of those people that stormed the Capitol for him. He doesn't care one iota about them. He hasn't even mentioned them since he's been out of the White House.
January 6th only intensified the collective madness around the lie of a stolen election. Amateur Republican attempts are underway to recount ballots in sham audits only in states Trump lost. Republican governors and legislatures are passing new laws targeting mass vote fraud that never occurred. Scariest of all, the conspiracy theory that Trump could return in a military coup.
The military is doing their own investigation, and at the right time, they're going to be restoring the republic with Trump as president.
Well, once people are already radicalized, it is very difficult to bring them back.
So just giving them facts doesn't work?
It definitely does not work, especially for conspiracy theories. You can't give people facts and expect them to believe. They will just see that as feeding into the same conspiracy.
If you are watching CNN, reading news based in fact, not fiction, you're missing what is driving the delusional views of so many Americans.
You think he's going to come back?
Oh, he's coming back.
Absolutely. In 2024?
I think he's coming back before then.
Trump's true believers get their so-called news from unapologetic propaganda, conspiracy profiteers on social media, and lying politicians who are putting their personal careers ahead of the country they claim to serve. Most influential of all is the liar-in-chief Trump himself, who fuels the hysteria.
I am not the one trying to undermine American democracy. I'm the one that's trying to save it. Please remember that.
Donald Trump's lie united ordinary Americans with radical extremists on January 6th, and that could lead to an even darker future.
There are still a lot of angry people. It absolutely emboldened them, and it's like it's finally happening. This civil war, this is the start of it, and it has encouraged people to plot and plan for what their next series of attacks are going to be.
The movement threatens the very functioning of the United States government.
If you don't change anything, we're on the pathway to having a failed state, which means the government can't govern, which means people just start doing whatever they want to do. You could wind up with very bad outcomes in the United States over the next 10 years or more.
It is an America where white supremacists can march in the open. Politicians can spread lies, push hate, and make millions from it. And violent mobs can storm capitals and threaten politicians if they don't like the result of an election. This is Donald Trump's America.